Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Personality Picks, where we interview your favorite MMA Twitter personalities, UFC fighters, and much more. This week, joining me is Trevor Peak following his UFC debut win. Trevor, how are you doing?
Man, I am doing great. I'm back at it already. I feel on top of the world. All this is just really surreal, man. It's a crazy feeling. I'm really blessed and just I feel great, man.
That's awesome. I mean, first and foremost, congrats on the amazing win. How did it feel to get a finish in the first round in pure Trevor Peak fashion in the debut?
Man, it's a hard feeling to describe, really. I mean, it's just on top of the world. I knew I could get it done in the first round, but still, even knowing, like, even having them feelings about things when you actually do it, it's like, wow, it's just a really cool experience, man.
Yeah, I mean, tell me a little bit about the lead up into that fight. How did it feel going into it? Just the whole experience. What was like the best part about it?
Honestly, the best part about it was probably meeting Bruce Buffer, man. That was that was just I don't know the whole him me not knowing he was there and then him surprising me and everything, man. That was just such a cool surprise, And then leading up to it, man, I felt 100 times better than I did on the Contender Series fight. Like I don't know, I felt a lot more comfortable. Felt like I was supposed to be there. I didn't have as bad as nerves as I did on the Contender Series fight, and the biggest, I guess, one of the biggest differences I had compared to my last several fights, man, was I've been so worried about winning, the outcome of the fight that I haven't really taken time to enjoy the fight. And I was probably about 5 minutes from walking out, and I was standing, at this hallway waiting to go. And I like had a long conversation with myself. I was just like, man, like, dude, go out here and just have fun. You know what I mean? Like, put all this worry and stuff behind you. Like, let's just go have fun. And I did, man. I had an absolute blast. I think that was, as far as just the fight experience, that was one of the most fun times I've ever had. I missed all my fans being there. Like, I guess that part of it, I was kind of lacking on not having that experience. But I had a few people there that came and supported me, and man, just so cool, dude. It's just everything I got going on right now is just I'm just living my dream, man. That's what it's all about, ain't it? Just trying to figure out way to make it in this big old world, and try to be happy doing it. And I'm so far, man. I feel like I got all that going on, so I'm just blessed, man.
That's awesome. And you just talking about how fun it was for you. I mean, it was so much fun for us to even watch it. Like that first round or that fight was ridiculously entertaining. What was the game plan heading into the fight with Eric Gonzalez? Like, did you have a specific game plan or a specific area you were looking to target to expose a weakness? What was going through your head and your coach's heads, the game planning for Eric?
Just be me. I mean,
Okay.
really, it was just be me, get in there and be violent. I had intentions on before the fight started trying to be a little bit more composed, a little bit more technical than I showed, but I was just having too much fun, man. it's on it's almost like and I've heard a lot of fighters talk about this. It's almost kind of like starting over in a sense, when you make your UFC debut. It's like there's so many nerves and everything involved, man, but like I don't know. It's too cool, man.
You want to know what's funny? One of the most common questions I receive to ask you is, do you always go with the dagger punch? Is that something that you always use in fights?
Oh,
Because
Sam Mountain Judy Chop. Man, honestly, I've never used it in an MMA fight. I've used it out here a time or two. What I mean, in my wilder days, that come from the streets, man. But like I had recently, like, there's been, I don't know, the last several months. I mean, maybe even last year or so. Like, I've been like, whenever I'm doing bag workouts and stuff, like I'll throw that standing hammer fist, and I'm like, and every time I've ever like throwed it, like, I mean, I throw it quite a bit on the bag, and when I throw it, I'm like, man, I can generate a whole lot of power with it, and I'm like, these would be really cool to use if somebody like used these, like I feel like they could be really effective. And probably about the last 3 weeks of this camp, man, whenever I was sparring and stuff, I would do it just instinctively, not even meaning to. I remember one night in particular, my striking coach was over here and he was watching me spar, and I kept doing it, man. And I told him, I was like, which I wasn't throwing them like I was in the fight, you know what I mean? I'd kill somebody in here, but I was just little short shots. But I even apologized to him one time. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm doing that, man. I know you don't want me doing that. And he's like, if it works, it works. So, I thought it was cool. I got cracked up after the fight, was watching, and I was like, God, I'm a wild man in there, man. And we got to one of my buddies the next week. We was in here and training and stuff, and he come up to me and he was like, yeah, I can't throw that punch. And I was like, can you not? And it hit me. I was like, dude, I wonder how many people in the world like tried that this week. You know what I mean? Like, I wonder how many people just randomly tried that standing hammer fist. And we got cracked up about it, man. I told one of my buddies, I said, man, I might have just started a whole new strike.
Yeah, that's your stamp right there.
Yeah, it's fun, man. My style is definitely a lot of people keep, hating on me, saying that, he gets in there with somebody that's real technical, they're gonna counter him and all this stuff. And I know I got a lot of holes in my game, man, that they just need sharpened up. But you can't tell me it ain't exciting to watch. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like it's fun to watch, and and man, I'm just here to have a good time and try to make a difference in other people's lives, and maybe make a little money while I'm at it, man. So I'm just gonna have fun and keep being violent and let the haters hate, I guess.
100%. Now, going back to your post-fight interview, you said mixed martial arts saved your life. How so? How did it change your life, or what was the benefit from martial arts?
Well, I honestly, man, I'd say one of the biggest things that martial arts taught me was discipline. A sense of before I started training, when I started trying to get my life together and stuff, I started learning a little bit about discipline. I mean, trying to stay away from certain crowds, and saying no to this and no to that, and trying to get a schedule together. I learned a little bit of discipline, man. But yeah, one of the biggest things it taught me was how to be responsible and make good decisions and set goals. And man, just setting goals and being able to achieve them it gives you so much inspiration and drive in life to keep checking things off the list. And it taught me a lot of discipline, man, how to control myself. And you would you would think, like becoming more violent could be dangerous, but becoming more violent can almost make you more gentle. It's weird how it all works, man. But I've become a lot more dangerous and got a whole lot more gentle than I was. It's wild how it all worked out, but it definitely saved my life, man. I feel like I'd get through if I lost it, but man, I'd be struggling for a bit.
And you talked about how you started off with street fighting. How'd you get into martial arts? Take me through that whole journey leading up into your amateur fights into the UFC. What did you start off with?
Yeah, so I had an old friend, man. I was just 14, 15 years old running around with them, and they all was big into the UFC. Like, he was a real big Vanderlei Silva fan and everything. And they had the money to train. And I even talked to my parents a couple times, but it was just we couldn't really afford it during that time, and I wanted to get into it then. But that one particular friend, man, we went around, we was fighting all the time, man. I mean, I can't even stress to you enough how many times, how often we was fighting. And he called me up one day, and I was at my dad's house, and he's like, man, you want to go fight tonight? And I'm like, yeah, man, I'll go. And I thought he was talking about, like, the typical roll up at a parking lot, throw down, then leave. But he said something, and I was like, what kind of fight are you talking about, man? And he was like a cage fight, like the UFC does in front of, and I was like, in front of people? And he said, yeah, man, in front of people. And I was like, God, yeah, I mean, yeah, I would do it, I guess. What should I do? And what I have to do? And he said, you just got to get a piece of paper signed by one of your parents. And I was like, okay. So I went and found my dad, and my dad he was pretty busy during that time or whatnot. And he kind of just like, yeah, man, I don't care. I'll sign it. At which he got mad at me later. He's like, I didn't know you was going to fight. And I was like, I told you I was going to fight. And he's like, well, I didn't know. I don't know what I was thinking. And I was like he wanted to go, but yeah, we went, and it was just like I mean, it was an unsanctioned event, man, but it was just like an MMA fight. So you showed up the day of, you get weighed in, they match you at the event, and then you fight. And I was only 15 during the time. That thing was set up kind of like a tournament style. If you was
Mhm.
older, you progressed on if you won. So me being only 15, I could only fight one time. But I mean, dude, honestly, I'm pretty well had my way with the dude, and they all trained. It was me and a buddy fought two of the brothers. It was three brothers, and the oldest brother was in the main event that night. So they all had a background in training, and the kid tried to throw a triangle choke up on me, man, and I like stood up and slammed him. It was cool, and then I won another unsanctioned one, and then that same friend I'm talking about, when I was 19, he called. He wanted to know if I wanted to go fight, and I was like, yeah. And this was a sanctioned event, so we went through the whole process, and I went down there and I won another one. And
Mhm.
then that dude wanted to do a rematch that I beat him in like 35 seconds, I think. He wanted a rematch. And man, I
Wow.
was smoking cigarettes and drinking a bunch of liquor and all kinds of other bad stuff, man. I literally didn't train a bit. He ended up beating me by rear naked choke in the third round. And I told myself then, like, because I was gassed in the first round, man. I was so gassed. I mean, like I said, I didn't train a lick, nothing. And I was so gassed. And I remember telling myself in that first round that I was like, man, I'll never get in here again until I train. Like, this sucks. I'm in the first round. I am completely toast right now. My arms, my lungs, everything's done. Like, this is terrible. And I didn't start training for that. I was 19 then, and then from 19 to 22, I was just really, really wild, man. I didn't have really. I knew I wanted to fight, but I didn't have myself together, man. So I mean,
Mhm.
I started getting together everything together. I got in some more legal trouble, and after that last incident where I got in that last trouble, I was like, dude, you got to do something different, because I almost got two innocent people killed, including myself. And it really affected me differently than it had in the past. All the other times I'd been in trouble, it was pretty well self-inflicted. I mean, my family was struggling through it too, but it was pretty well just me having to deal with the consequences. And then this last time I got well, my buddy was with me, so I mean, he obviously knew what was going on, but I got this
Mhm.
innocent lady that was not partaking in any illegal activities, I about got her killed. And it really affected me. And I was in jail that day, and I was just like, and they was telling me, like, people, they thought that my buddy was going to die. Like, I was in jail just not doing good at all, man. And I really thought that I was going to prison for a long time. And finally, like, I ended up getting out, man. And I told God, if he'd get me through this, that I'd try to live a lot better life. And he pulled me out of it, man. And I got a lot more serious in church, and cleared out a little spot in my grandfather's shed, and started really just beating the crap out of a punching bag, man. And then that same friend that had kind of got me into it a long time ago, we'd started talking about fighting again. And I'm like, man, I'd like to fight. And we end up going to this karate dojo in Henniger, Alabama, and that we had a little spot in the back. And we didn't have a coach or anything, man. We just went up there and beat the crap out of each other every single day. And I finally met a gentleman named Jeff Powell down in Kimball, Tennessee. And man, that dude changed my whole entire life. I've been on 11 fight win streak since I met him, and and now, I'm up here to Gogi Combatives, and everything's it's crazy, man. I mean, I went from a really well known wild child. I mean, man, that whole community at one time was like, posting about me all over social media, and rightfully so. I ain't hating on nobody for it, but I had a really bad, like, people viewed me very poorly, in the community I'm from. And like I said, rightfully so. But, God he certainly blessed me, man. I mean, a little over 5 years ago, man, they was trying to send me to prison for 5 years. And then I'm going Friday to a drug court to talk to them people and try to, just tell them my story. And, maybe God will do some work in them. But it's just wild how the tables have turned, man. And you know, the doors that God have opened for me and
Mhm.
everything He's done for me in my life. It's just mind blowing, man.
You always look back to the hardships and the bad times, and the one thing I always try to tell people is don't dwell on the past. Whatever happened happened, and it's you can't really like rechange like rewrite the your history or your life. It's one of those things, and the way that you've turned around just by listening to your story right now too, it hit me deep. It's it's inspiring, and then being able
Yes, sir.
to go out and be able to help people yourself, and you talking about going and speaking in front of the drug court as well. Uh, Hopefully, you can help and shine some light on the individuals there. So, I applaud you for that, and I draw a lot of similarities. So
Yeah.
it's crazy. You could definitely change your life within a snap of a finger as long as you're motivated to actually do it.
Yeah, you can, man. That's the beautiful thing about life is like you're saying, you can't rewrite history, but you can most definitely change your future, and that's what the cool thing about everything, man. You can start today, you know what I mean, right
Uh,
here, right now. You can start right now. You ain't gotta live back there. You know what I mean? You can't reach for tomorrow if your hands are full of yesterday. So I think everything's gonna work out, man. It's all cool. It's all super cool, man. I had no idea, like, even in my worst days before I started training, man, like we would talk about me making it to the UFC, but I had no idea that God could potentially like really use me the way that I feel like He can use me as long as I'm obedient and do what I'm supposed to do. It's really cool, man.
that's awesome. Super inspirational. Now, what does Trevor Peak ideally see in the next 6 to 7 months? What do you see in your future?
I'd like to at least get two more fights in the next 6 months, man. If I could come out unscathed, maybe even three.
Wow.
Um, as far as training and stuff goes, man, I've pretty well found a home here to go. I literally found a home here. I live here. But it's man, Matt Harris, Sterling Peace, Larry Scott, Mike, man, they all just they're so good to me. I mean, it's so I'll be here. We actually went down to 10th Planet Atlanta today and cross trained with them guys. First time I ever been down there. I think I'll go down there and get some cross training in with them. And then I'll always be working with Jeff Powell on my strike, and that dude's he's a wizard, man.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Do you see an ideal or a matchup that you like in your head when you're thinking about your next fight or your next couple fights? Do you have a fun matchup that you think would really motivate you to be in the gym every single hour of the day?
Man, I got a couple I'd like to fight, but I know it's going to take me a while before I can get to them. I'd like to fight Patty, but they're not going.
Uh-huh.
They're not going to do
That'll be
that right now. There's a couple of fun fights. I feel like I'm gonna let them do the matchmaking and stuff. When time comes for me to be calling people out after I make a name for myself, then I will. But until then, man, I'm just gonna keep trying to wreck whoever they put in front of me and keep making highlight reels.
Hammer fist of death.
Yeah,
Let's
man,
go.
just give me a tomahawk punch.
Cool. We'll go ahead. I'm gonna look at the tweet that I posted a couple of days ago. We have a bunch of questions to go through. The first one's gonna be from my guy Blood Money MMA Bets, uh, and he asked, "Have you ever lost a street fight?" And then he's like, "With his style, I doubt it, but you never know."
Man, I would say the only street fights I have lost was the ones that I was so drunk I couldn't really stand up. I mean, and that there was several of them times that I just got in a fight, man, and couldn't hardly stand up. But if I could stand up decently, I mean, I didn't really lose any, man. I was just so tough. I mean, even you can like you. Well, I mean, most people's watch the Contender Series fight. You see how tough I am. Can you imagine that guy on alcohol? You know what I mean? Like, my God, man! Like you've literally you've got to kill that guy. Like so, I would. Oh my gosh, man! I would come home. My face, you couldn't even tell who I was. I'd be so like just mangled up. My mom would be like, man. I'd come in, my mom would just start crying. She'd be like, "Son, one of these days you ain't gonna come home." And I mean, I was cocky and arrogant then. And I'd be like, "It's gonna take a bad one." You know what I mean? Like, I was a turd, man. But
That's hilarious. Next question we have from Redbeard. Has he ever been KO'd sparring? And do you like Tyler Childers music?
oh, dude, I love Childers' music. I actually did get knocked out in sparring one time. It was at the very beginning of my it wasn't long in my amateur career, man. And me and a buddy come up here and we sparred a gentleman named Sidney Wheeler. And during that time, he's the number one pound for pound pro fighter in Tennessee. And man, he gave me a head kick from hell. I mean, he honestly done me a little dirty, man. He was actually fixing to fight Hamzat Chimaev over in Brave in India.
Oh wow.
And so we was sparring him, and he done me a little dirty, man. But it is what it is. It landed on my carotid, so it was more of like I don't know. It just cut off my lights, man. But it was a hard kick for sure. But that's the only time I've ever been knocked out. I feel like if he'd got me on the jaw, I'd probably been all right. But when he hit that carotid, man, I was out.
Got it. Got it. Next question we have from Surgical Summer. He asks, "Who is your favorite fighter, and who do you look up to in the fighting world?"
Uh, my favorite fighter would probably be myself. No,
Good
but
answer.
I've got it's a yeah. It's crazy you asked me that. I was actually just thinking about that. I think it was yesterday. Um, I've got several that I like and that I look up to. I think Dustin Poirier kind of goes under the radar a lot for the things that he does outside of fighting, and I don't know why he doesn't get more respect than he does inside of the cage. I mean, the dude's a monster. I feel like Conor McGregor probably you know tainted his fan base, I guess. But there's several fighters that I feel like that I look up to a little bit. My training partner Torres Finney, man, I look up to him a lot. He's one of the best, just best outside of the cage. I mean, best in the cage, I know too, but like just his day to day life, the way he lives and the way he treats people and his views, on God and everything.
Mhm.
I mean, I look up to my training partner, Torres Finney, as much as I do any other fighter in the world.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Last question, because I just scrolled through them all, and I think there was at least like 10 to ask him about the tomahawk punches. As well, we covered that. Last question is, ask him if he's framed the Bruce Buffer intro sheet, and if he's curious what it goes for on eBay.
Yeah, I did frame it, man. I got it up there in my room. I went like 2 days later and got me a nice little frame to put it in, and no, I don't even care what it goes for, man. It's just, I'm sure something like that could go for a lot, but I wouldn't sell it.
Yeah, no, that's like a piece of history. That's a piece of like your first UFC fight. It's
Yeah.
I
Yeah,
can't.
because if I wanted to know, somebody'd be like, "I'll give $1 million for it," and I'd be struggling. I'd be like, "Man, Bruce, I'm gonna need another card, man. I'll split it with you." Uh,
That's hilarious. Well, Trevor, I mean, it was really fun talking to you. I really appreciate you taking the time out of your day and hopping on the interview. Is there anything you want to tell the fans to look forward to in your fighting future? If you want to call someone, you could do that as well. The mic is yours.
yeah, and I'd kind of done this on a previous podcast too. I did want to clarify something with everybody, and it's something that kind of weighed on me a little bit after the fight. You do certain things after the fight, post fight speeches and stuff like that, and then the devil kind of play into your mind. You're like, well, should I have done that? Should I have done this? Did I say that wrong? Just little things like that. But I just want everybody in the world to know that I didn't get on my knees for any kind of publicity or fan base or a growing of, you know, any kind of sorts. Like I'm not looking for anything like that whenever I do that, man. I just want to, you know, honor God and thank him for the things that he's done me and for me, and you know, give him the glory. And you know, if it come down to it, if everybody in the world thought that I was doing it for that, I just wouldn't even fight, man. You know what I mean? I promise I don't do it for that. I don't even feel worthy of doing it most of the time. But and I just want to thank everybody for, you know, supporting me. You know, it's gonna be a fun ride. If you guys follow me, y'all will surely be entertained. I'm an entertaining fighter, and just thank all my teammates, coaches at Agogi, and thank my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, because we wouldn't be here right now, man. I wouldn't be able to do this. I'd probably be dead or rotting away in a prison right now. So just want to thank God for everything he's done for me, and thank you for having me on, man. Thank my management team, Steve Swedish. Just super thankful, man. I enjoyed it. Really enjoyed this interview, man. Thank you for, you know, being passionate. You can tell you like doing these, and it means a lot to me.
Thanks again, Trevor. I really appreciate that, and it comes from the heart when I say this. I think this is the most fun I've had doing an interview. So thanks for
Oh,
hopping
dude.
on. This has
Heck
been
yeah,
great.
man. Heck yeah, man. Well, dude, get with Steve, and when they get together in the future, man, I look forward to it, man. I'll do as many you want to do.
Awesome. Awesome. All right, guys. If you haven't already, please like, comment, and subscribe. We'll be back next week with Miranda Maverick. See you later.
See you, buddy.